Well, rinse out my arsehole. This video has long been overdue. Basically, I got all the footage, then it magically disappeared, then I tried again a couple of months later, and lo and behold, it goes into the Twilight Zone again. But thanks to the gorgeous people at World of Long Plays, I downloaded some footage by user Spasbo4, so check out his channel for banging long plays, and if you're struggling for footage yourself, give them a try. It's a cracking sight. So Resident Evil 4 was the second resurrection of Christ to a lot of people, and with good reason. So naturally, Resident Evil 5 had plenty to live up to. I remember Game Trailers, God rest their souls, made a multi-part Resident Evil retrospective before 5 came out, and they had it in so many anticipated games lists. The debut trailer showed your boy Chris Redfield on his own getting swarmed by loads of black zombies. It looked pretty scary, and this was the first time I saw people getting triggered by a game. It was labelled as racist because a white man was shooting loads of black people. I could see the argument if Chris was wearing a swastika or piped up his disdain for the blacks, but he doesn't, and trying to say an entire development team is racist is a bit of a reach. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who is in charge of the project, and you walk into a meeting one day with the team and say, "Gosh darn, don't you just hate the blacks? Let's make a new game about exterminating them." You would be chucked out the window before you could say white power. Not to mention it is set in West Africa, where the majority of people are black. And to say you can't have a white man in a game where most of the enemies are black in any context is silly. The Africans in the game are mindless savages because they are infected, not because that's how they are. It was quite apparent when people saw more of the game that it wasn't. A few whites that looked suspiciously like Saddam Hussein were in the packs. There were black central characters like Josh, and your co-op partner was sort of black, so it did a lot to prove otherwise. Until the part where they start doing Zulu chants and using spears anyway. And no, that's not a joke. Yes, Chris had a partner, Sheva Alomar, an African who joined the same organisation Chris is a part of, the BSAA, an anti-bioterror organisation. She helps Chris fight the white terrorists, as well as trying to help find Chris's old partner, Jill Valentine. Chris and Sheva are sent to Africa to stop the white terrorists from making an arms deal. The game does not fuck about getting started. Chris and Sheva are attacked by a horde within about the first 5 seconds, and it's a great taste of what is to come. Much like Resi 4, it's all about crowd control. There are too many enemies to count at points, bringing about a lot of tension and panic. Not the kind you'd experience in the older games where you were dreading what was behind the next door. It was more of a, phew, we got through that round of murder, let's wait for the adrenaline to calm down type thing. The enemy numbers never really became cheap or unfair though, because now you had 2 people to split them up and take them on. Yes, the satisfying headshot or kneecap an enemy followed by twatting them right in the mush was still available, but with 2 characters now you could shoot an enemy and let your partner follow up. If you're playing with another human anyway, playing solo's bloody awful. Oh yes, AI Sheva makes you question how she survived basic training. You give the scatty mare a machine gun or a shotgun, and then she stubbornly refuses to use it against the massive zombie bat tearing out your arsehole. Got the slightest scratch on you? Well, Sheva will come running to heal you with potent healing herbs rather than using the shittier ones. What I'm saying is, play Resident Evil 5 with another human, online or locally. It's a great game when played co-op. There are some instances where the co-op feels a bit forced rather than a natural part of the game. You need 2 of you to boot down this flimsy door is a big one, but there are some really good uses of it. The bit where you have to send your partner over alligator-infested waters on a shite raft is pretty tense and a great opportunity to piss your mate off. And there is the co-op boss fights that make good use of the co-op system, like the ones against Wesker. Oh yeah, Wesker's back. Obviously the arsehole is behind everything, trying to unleash a new virus called Ouroboros across the globe, and he has Jill under his spell with a device strapped to her chest that conveniently shows off a bit of her tits. It does make for a weird scrap where one of you has to hold Jill down whilst the other rips the device off her tits with no knowledge whether it will kill her. A lot of it just looks like Chris and Sheva are sexually assaulting her, to be honest. The quick time events in Resident Evil 4 were a pretty core part of the game, so you got used to being alert for them, but in 5 they are a bit sporadic. You'll go ages without one, then all of a sudden, bang, press circle you twat. Doubly annoying if you're playing with someone else because you both have to get them. It does make make for a few funny moments though, that one near the end where Sheva and Wesker are dangling out of a plane and whoever is playing as Chris can refuse to grab her and let them both fall. I do think Resi 5 was a bit better paced than 4. Yes, the game was shorter, but I think that was because they trimmed a lot of the fat off. 4, towards the end, had a lot of enemy encounters and walking about that went on for far too long. 5, however, gets to the interesting stuff pretty quickly and always seems to throw new things at you to the point where it gets a bit silly though. Going from ancient underground ruins to a mud hut village and then a secret high-tech lab right under them is good variety, yeah, but it is hard to suspend your disbelief at points, a bit like Resident Evil 2, where it felt like they designed a few environments that were good ideas but stitched them together rather than creating a convincing and connected world. As I mentioned earlier, the boss fights were pretty good. There was more to it than just shooting the glowing weak spot like in 4. Using the mines and leading the stupid bat thing into them, trapping that weird tentacle monster in an oven, trying to outsmart Wesker rather than using brute force. It's good. Better than previous entries, I think, where it was just let's see if you have enough resources to survive this. I like a bit of strategy to my boss fights, thank you. The inventory system in Resi 5 was outright feces. It tried to be like the old Resis, with item slots and any size item can fit in those slots. So essentially 6 herbs would take up the same space as 6 RPGs. I know Resi 4's attaché case was a bit of a faff, but in a single player game it worked well, because you didn't have someone waiting on you to cock about making your inventory neat and tidy. I do see what they were trying to do with this one. It does make giving and receiving items from your partner swift and easier, and you could assign weapons and items to the D-pad for quick switching, keeping the pace of the game up. But it could have been better having slots for large, medium and small items. That might have tidied it up a bit and make it less stupid. Like, why does my armour have to go in my inventory? You just put it on over your clothes. If anything, it should add more inventory space. The puzzles as well were a disappointment. The game was very light on them, and what was there was not on the level of some of the previous games. How many games have you played where you use mirrors to guide a beam of light? Well, that one's one of the main puzzles in Resident Evil 5. Maybe it was to make room for more action-oriented set pieces, which whilst exciting and felt like mini puzzles in themselves, deciding what enemies to prioritise and when to move, some of them did feel a bit clunky, namely the sections where you use a cover system fighting other enemies with guns. Oh yes, Resident Evil couldn't help but follow the trends of popular games in 2008. The gun customisation and treasure selling was back from Resi 4, but there was no merchant in a Flash's coat to do it from, so therefore not as good. It was just done at the beginning of each level. Resident Evil 5 marked the series' first entry on a new generation of consoles, PS3 and Xbox 360. People were excited to see what the team could do with the new technology, as Resident Evil 4, the remake of Resi 1 and Resi 0 all look gorgeous. Resi 5 carried on that trend. I still think the game looks pretty good today. The early environments all look really hot and disgusting, with flies, rotten meat, junk, all sorts of bollocks littered about the place. Some of the later environments looked a bit boring to me, mostly the ruins because we have seen them done to death in other games. Character models still look excellent and animate beautifully. Enemies still react to getting shot in different body parts like in Resident Evil 4, but a bit more convincingly. I get the complaints that Resi 5 was too similar to 4, but I think it was a bit silly to expect a massive overhaul again. As a co-op game, I think Resi 5 is brilliant, not scary in the slightest, but still, as a standalone game, it's a cracker. Then we got Resi 6. Fucking hell.